The peopling of the Americas has been one of the most enduring and intriguing mysteries in human history. For centuries, scholars and scientists have speculated about the origins of the indigenous peoples of the Americas. The central questions that continue to elude definitive answers are when the first humans arrived, where they came from, and the exact pathways they took to reach the New World. Recent breakthroughs in genetic research have begun to provide new perspectives on these questions, offering insights that challenge many of the long-held theories. But instead of confirming a singular, straightforward migration story, these new findings are raising even more questions, presenting a much more complicated picture of the Americas' early inhabitants. Over the past few decades, scientific research, particularly in the fields of genetics, archaeology, and anthropology, has provided compelling evidence that the settlement of the Americas was far more complex than previously thought. One of the most exciting developments is the sequencing of DNA from both modern and ancient populations, which has allowed scientists to uncover unexpected genetic connections between indigenous people of the Americas and populations from other parts of the world, most notably Australia and Melanesia. This discovery has prompted researchers to reassess long-standing theories of human migration and to explore the possibility that the genetic makeup of Native Americans includes traces from populations that are geographically and culturally distant from Siberia, where the traditional migration route has been traced. The most striking and unexpected finding to emerge from the latest genetic research is the presence of DNA that is linked to the indigenous peoples of Australia and Melanesia in certain Native American populations, especially those from South America. Genetic evidence has revealed that some indigenous groups in the Amazon, such as the Suru and Cartiana peoples, carry genetic markers that suggest a distant genetic link to populations from these remote regions of Oceania. This discovery has upended the conventional understanding of human migration to the Americas, suggesting that early Americans may have had contact with populations from Australia and Melanesia in ways that were previously unimaginable. The marker that has drawn particular attention is known as the Y signal, which is a distinctive genetic alteration present in certain groups of indigenous South Americans. The presence of this marker has led scientists to propose the existence of an ancient, previously unknown population referred to as Population Y, which may have lived in East Asia or Oceania. Researchers believe that this group could have contributed genetic material to both early Native American populations as well as modern Australians and Melanesians. This theory introduces the possibility that the peopling of the Americas was not a single event involving a single wave of migration, but instead was the result of multiple, complex waves of migration and gene flow across a wide geographic area. The discovery of Australasian genetic material in Native American populations has prompted domain hypotheses about how this genetic link could have occurred. One hypothesis proposes that the Australasian DNA entered the Americas during the first major wave of migration from Siberia, which is thought to have occurred between 15,000 and 20,000 years ago. According to this theory, early human populations from East Asia or Oceania may have traveled across Beringia, the land bridge that connected Siberia to North America during the Ice Age, and mingled with the ancestors of the Native Americans. This theory suggests that the genetic link between the Americas and Australasian populations is a result of these early human interactions. The alternative theory suggests that the Australasian DNA entered the Americas much later, during a second wave of migration that occurred after the initial settlement of the Americas. In this view, populations with Australasian genetic material may have made their way across the Pacific and into the Americas in a subsequent migration, potentially by way of the Aleutian Islands or the Pacific coast. This theory posits that the early populations of the Americas were distinct from those of Australasia, and that the genetic connections seen today are the result of a later admixture event, possibly as late as 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. Both theories have merit, but they are difficult to reconcile, as they rely on different assumptions about the timing and nature of early human migrations. The debate remains unresolved, and further genetic analysis will be required to determine which scenario is most likely. However, both hypotheses suggest that the history of the Americas settlement is much more complex than the traditional theory of a single migration from Siberia. The concept of population Y plays a central role in these debates. According to the latest genetic studies, population Y is believed to have lived in East Asia or Oceania thousands of years ago, and may have contributed genetic material to both early Native Americans and modern Australians and Melanesians. This theory posits that population Y was part of an ancient human migration that spread across Eurasia and into the Pacific, with some of its members eventually reaching the Americas. The discovery of the Y signal in South American populations supports this idea, as it suggests that these populations share a common genetic heritage with groups from Oceania. Scientists have identified the Y signal in the DNA of several indigenous groups in the Amazon, including the Suru and Karachana peoples, who show genetic similarities to populations from Australia, Papua New Guinea, and the Andaman Islands. This finding challenges the traditional view that the first human settlers of the Americas came solely from Siberia and reinforces the idea that early human migrations to the Americas may have involved a much more diverse range of populations. In addition to genetic evidence, researchers have also examined the physical characteristics of ancient human remains to better understand the origins of the Americas' first settlers. One of the key features that has drawn attention is the shape of the skull. Some researchers have noted that certain extinct Native American groups, particularly those from South America, had long, narrow skulls that resemble those of populations from Australia and Melanesia. This observation led to the development of the Paleo-American hypothesis, which suggests that these early populations came from a distinct source group that was separate from the ancestors of modern Native Americans. However, the sequencing of ancient DNA has undermined this hypothesis. For example, the famous 8,500-year-old Kennewick man skeleton, once thought to be part of a separate group with connections to ancient Oceania, was found to be genetically related to modern Native Americans. This finding suggests that the Paleo-American hypothesis, which posited a unique wave of migration from Australasia, may not be valid. Instead, the evidence points to the fact that all Native Americans, both ancient and contemporary, are descended from a single population that originated in Siberia. Despite the debunking of the Paleo-American theory, the discovery of Australasian DNA in some South American populations still raises important questions. How did this genetic material make its way into the Americas, and what does it say about the complexity of human migration? One possible explanation is that the early Native American populations were much more genetically diverse than previously thought, with contributions from populations in East Asia, Oceania, and perhaps even further afield. Most scientists still agree that the first human settlers of the Americas came from Siberia, crossing the Bering Land Bridge between 20,000 and 15,000 years ago. At this time, sea levels were much lower, and a land bridge connected Siberia to Alaska. These early humans, believed to have been hunter-gatherers, would have migrated in small groups, following the availability of food and favorable climates as they expanded across the continent. By around 14,800 years ago, these early settlers had reached the southernmost parts of South America, with evidence of human habitation found in Monte Verde, Chile. This suggests that the initial settlement of the Americas was rapid, and that early humans were able to adapt to a variety of environments. The discovery of ancient DNA in remains from this period provides valuable clues about the genetic diversity of these early populations. Genetic studies have revealed that Native Americans, whether ancient or contemporary, all share a common ancestry that traces back to a single Siberian population that diverged from other Asian groups around 23,000 years ago. These early humans lived in Beringia, a now submerged region that once connected Siberia to North America, for several thousand years before migrating southward and dividing into northern and southern branches around 13,000 years ago. These early populations rapidly spread across the continent, establishing permanent settlements along the way. The new genetic findings have transformed our understanding of the peopling of the Americas. Rather than a simple story of a single wave of migration from Siberia, the evidence suggests that the settlement of the Americas was a much more intricate process, involving multiple waves of migration and complex genetic interactions. The discovery of genetic links between Native Americans and populations from Australia and Melanesia raises exciting new possibilities about the ancient history of human migration. While much remains to be understood, these groundbreaking studies provide a glimpse into the deep and complex history of human settlement in the Americas. They underscore the importance of continuing to explore both genetic and archaeological evidence to piece together the full story of how the New World was populated. As scientists continue to study the genetic makeup of both ancient and modern populations, the mystery of the Americas' first settlers will likely become clearer, revealing a more nuanced understanding of how these early humans shaped the diverse and rich cultures that would later develop across the continent.